everybody. This is Helen Hillix, licensed therapist, intuitive counselor, and I'm offering you an instructional video which is about how to do a healing redo of any specific experience you've had in your lives, but it especially applies to abuse experiences. And sexual abuse, however it occurs, I'm familiar with it personally as well as professionally. And I know that whether it's violent or not violent, whether you were young or older, whether it was someone you knew or didn't know, can have a devastating impact. And there is healing available. And that's what we're all here for, isn't it? On this summit, on this healing experience, collectively, is that there is healing available, and I want you to have as much of it as you can. And I don't care if it occurred 50 years ago, which I'm going to tell you an experience that happened to me 50 years ago. I don't know whether the stars were aligned in a particularly dangerous way that day or whatever, but I remember very clearly that my car had broken down, and so I had to take the bus to work. And I was standing out waiting for the bus, and a guy came up and grabbed me from behind and dragged me into the bushes and said, "I'm going to kill you if you don't do what I say." And I was paralyzed and mortified, of course. And that experience was scary enough just by itself. And somehow in that moment, I just channeled peace and calm. And I started talking to him and telling him he didn't want to do this. And eventually he did not rape me, but I did go to the police and I reported it as an attempted rape. And I was extremely scared and shaken by that experience because he knew where I lived. And he knew who I was, and I was just terrified and felt completely powerless and helpless. And then I had a friend of mine, a male friend of mine, stay with me that night because I was so afraid. And this is the weird part, is later that night, someone knocked on the door, and I had the chain across the door, and I opened the door, and another man tried to break in, that I found out later raped someone that very night. But the man who was staying with me came rushing in and pushed the door shut. And it's like that whole day, it seems like I felt like the male world on the one hand was against me and protecting me. And what a crazy experience. And this is a follow-up on that, is months later, a friend of mine had her car towed, and I took her down to the tow lot. And as I was standing there, a taxi driver drove up with someone else, and it was the man who tried to rape me in the morning. And I knew I would never forget his face. And I went to the police and told them, I got his license plate number, and they, found him, and he had what's called a rap sheet, a way long rap sheet of sex trafficking and a whole bunch of other sexual offenses. And, we went to a preliminary hearing, which again, just terrified me. And I'm telling you this whole story because it isn't just about the rape or the abuse, because in those two situations, I was not actually sexually raped. Although other times, I did have many sexual abuse experiences, but it doesn't even have to end up in the actual rape for it to be incredibly traumatizing and terrifying and make you feel helpless and powerless as a woman in our world. So we went to the preliminary hearing. The detective was there with me. And the first time they asked for a postponement, which terrified me even more, because now this guy who knew where I lived and knew who I was, knew that I was prosecuting him. And so, I was just beside myself for the next 8 weeks until we went back to the preliminary hearing. And then, I described what he was wearing. I described everything in vivid detail. And of course, at that time, this was back in, the early 70s or maybe 1970. The judge or somebody, the defender, asked me if I was a virgin. I mean, that was how awful it was back in those days. And then his wife got up. This happened, and this, the detective said, was common at the time, that during the postpartum period of birth, that a lot of sexual abuse and violence happens during that time. And that was what the situation was. And his wife got up and said she remembered that night many months ago. She remembered that he was home. And so there it was. He was free, and I was left to live with that terror and that feeling of helplessness as a woman. And it's like people say right now that, how can this be during this pandemic time? How can this be a time when I should be focusing on my abuse healing or my relationship intimacy or whatever it is that's plaguing you? And I say, if not now, when? Even if you end up dying, wouldn't you rather die feeling healed and happy with yourself and loving yourself and moving beyond the plague that sometimes can be the outcome of a sexual abuse issue? I'm with you guys. I want you to have all the freedom that you deserve, that you are entitled to, all of the pleasure that you are entitled to, because healing, when you heal, then and only then can you really have love. Can you really give love? Can you really receive love for yourself and with others? So, it's what makes the world go round, isn't it? Is love. And of course, it starts with self-love. And I want to comment on one thing that I've learned in my practice and through my own life that I hope will be helpful, just as a brief commentary. And then I want to dive into the actual redo exercise. I want to go actually walk you through it. So one of the side effects of abuse is that sometimes you might have experienced some pleasure during that experience. And I'm not just talking about the possibility of experiencing sexual pleasure, but some kind of pleasure, whether it's the attention or the affection or whatever, if it was that kind of experience. And I want to tell you another story of a client of mine. This was back in, I don't know, maybe the late 80s, that I had a client who lived in the San Diego area, and there was a serial rapist going around who never hurt his victims. And, he would somehow sneak into their homes and he would blindfold them and rape them. And that was all. Then he left. And my client happened to be one of those women that he got in through a window when she was sleeping, and he blindfolded her and raped her. And it was the only time she had ever had an orgasm during sex. And she was mortified by that fact. Mortified by that fact. And I helped her see that the irony of the fact that she felt more relaxed in that situation. She felt safer in that situation. Again, she knew, she was in the same neighborhood. She knew instantly who the person was, and that not their identity, but that they were a rapist that was not going to hurt her. And she felt safer in that situation than she did being exposed sexually, in an intimate kind of relationship. And what a sad commentary, not only on her life, but on our culture. But that's a whole other story. But that's an example of how she was plagued by the guilt about enjoying that experience. And I have another client who comes to mind right now, whose grandfather molested her when she was very young, and he didn't penetrate her, he didn't hurt her in any way physically, but he definitely crossed appropriate boundaries. But she enjoyed the situation because she loved him, and he was giving her special attention. And, that was extremely confusing to her and led her into a very hypersexualized life in which she did many, many other things that made her feel ashamed of herself and made her feel guilty. So that it's such a confusing and complicated situation. And I've had clients come in who are just devastated by the impact of a molestation that took place when they were younger. And once we uncover that what actually happened was that they felt so much guilt and shame about enjoying the experience that they had to magnify it and make it the most horrible thing that ever happened to them. And once we uncovered what their actual experience had been, they felt relieved of the entire thing and were able to move forward and forgive themselves for nothing, because their body was not betraying them. I had another client who said that her body betrayed her because she was feeling pleasure during the experience with her father. And I said, rubbish. Your body was not betraying you. Your body was responding absolutely appropriately at a time when it had no discernment about what was appropriate and what wasn't appropriate. It was just a pleasurable sensation of closeness. And so that instantly blew apart the way she had been looking at herself in that whole situation and perceiving herself for the rest of her life. So I only offer this because I think so many people experience that and don't understand how it's impacting them, and that they may be projecting themselves into a whole other kind of experience because they're not clear about that aspect. And I'm not saying that this relates to all of you by any means. There are some of you for whom this has no relationship whatsoever, but it's such a common thing. And I thought this is the only time I'm probably going to get to talk to you guys about this. And I wanted to be sure that I brought that forward. So let's talk now about the actual exercise. I believe that energy is fluid, and that we can go back and actually redo any situation. This doesn't just apply for sexual abuse. This applies for any kind of a traumatic experience in the past, but it especially is helpful with sexual abuse. So this is from my belief system, and you may not believe this, and you may not want to do the exercise, which is totally fine. You can just unplug it right now. But if you have an idea that this might be possible, to go back in a very relaxed state, to go back and you bring someone powerful, some support, some comfort that empowers you back through the years, and actually do a redo of the situation. And my experience, both personally, again, and working with many, many clients doing this, is that it is a very healing and liberating and empowering experience that can change you significantly in just a matter of a few minutes. And I'm going to lead you step by step through that. And if you do the exercise and you feel the experience, you can let that experience actually integrate and be a part of your physical being. Because, our memory, our body doesn't know about time and space. It just has experiences. So if we offer it a new experience, that can actually imprint into our cellular being and become part of us from here on out, from this day forward. So I want to say, first of all, please be ready to do this exercise. If you're not ready, don't do it. If you're afraid of doing it, but you still want to do it, okay, great. If you are experiencing mental health issues or whatever, that you're afraid that you are vulnerable right now and this is not a good idea, listen to your intuition and do not do the exercise. And also make sure you have someone to call, a professional that can support you. Please do that. Be sure you have that support. So let's get started. And if you just feel like this isn't a good day, then, put this on pause and come back to it a different time. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you the whole sequence so that you'll be prepared. First, we're going to do a relaxation exercise of counting down and, bringing yourself into a totally relaxed state. And then we are going to go back into a time tunnel. And you, again, you are bringing with you a support. It can be Buddha, it could be Jesus, it could be your father, or it could be your mother, it could be your best friend, it could be your favorite stuffed animal, it could be an Indian shaman, it can be any spiritual or physical being that brings you comfort and empowerment and brings you a sense of complete safety. So we're going to go back in time to the time that the abuse took place. And of course, we can only work with one incident at a time. If there are multiple ones, you can do this over and over. And then we are going to actually start at the very beginning of the experience, and with the power that you feel of your partner that you brought back with you, you're going to stop the situation from happening. And then we're going to go through a whole process, a whole healing process, and come out the other side, and then come back out of the relaxation. And, I promise you, it's a very powerful experience. And I'm telling you this just so that you can get an idea before you go into it. You won't be so concerned about what we're going to do. So if you're ready to proceed, I want you to get into a comfortable position. Whether that's lying down or sitting up, make sure that you are really comfortable. And then I want you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. And let yourself sigh with every exhalation. And I'm going to take you on an abbreviated version of this exercise. If I were doing this with you in person or online on a video conferencing, we would take this much more slowly. But in respect of your time today watching this, I want to move through it more quickly. And you, again, can do it over and over and over. So take another deep breath. And now we're going to go down a hillside. And I want you to keep your eyes closed through this entire experience and just listen to my voice. I'm going to count backwards from 10 to 1 as you see yourself walking down a hill to your very favorite place in nature. And I want you to start at the top of that hill, and again, remembering to bring your partner with you. Stepping down the hill, 10, 9, 8, stepping down and down and down, becoming more and more relaxed with every step you take. And now 7 and 6 and 5, going down and down, deeper and deeper and deeper into relaxation. And now 4 and 3, ever deeper and deeper as you're stepping down and down and down that hill toward your favorite place in nature, feeling your body getting more and more relaxed as you breathe normally, and just allow yourself to go deeper and deeper into relaxation. And now we're at 2 and 1, and you are at the bottom of that hill, at the bottom of relaxation. And now you step off into your very favorite place in nature. And I want you to see yourself walking over and lying down on a thick blanket on the soft earth that has been prepared for you for this journey inward. I want you to breathe deeply as you feel yourself sinking down and letting go. Sinking down and letting go. Feeling yourself loose and limp like cooked spaghetti. And as you let go and release, I want you to see yourself going back through a tunnel in time. And you may go back through the decades, and you may see images from that decade passing you as you're moving through that tunnel in time backwards, back and back and back. Just one day, 1 year, just flying by, decades flying by, until you arrive at the age of the event that you're healing today. And then I want you to step out of the tunnel and step back into where this experience happened. And I want you to take a moment to remember that you are with your partner. I want you to look at them, feel their arms around you or their energy within you. Feel that you are safe and powerful and secure and that nothing can harm you. And then I want you to see the person who abused you, or persons, it could be, coming toward you. And it's as if you have an invisible bubble around you of power that they cannot penetrate. And you simply say no to them. And there is no violence in your heart, and you stop any violence that is coming toward you. And then you even go one step further in a very revolutionary way, and that is you bring compassion into the situation and you say to that person, this is not right. I know that you are looking for love and connection, but you're doing it in a violent way. You're doing it in a way that's not appropriate. And even if your intention is not to hurt me, it's violent because it's distancing from me. It's not supporting me. And so I'm going to stop you. I'm going to prevent you from doing that to me. Whatever you have in your mind, it stops now. And I want you to feel the empowerment of that moment. And I want you to notice the effect it has on the person who wanted to abuse you. I want you to feel yourself expanding and feel the leadership that you're offering. And I want you to take another step further if you can, and that is to say to that person, I know you're struggling. I know you must feel powerless in your life, or you would not be doing this, trying to do this to me and making me powerless. I know that you're struggling and feel powerless, and I want you to get the help you need to stop this pattern now. And I want you to stop and notice what impact that has on this other person, as you are not only preventing the abuse from happening, but you are standing in your power as a loving, generous, whole, spiritual leader, supported by the energy that you have brought with you to support you, and offering leadership to them, to that other person who was about to hurt you, and telling them you want them to get help now. And I want you to notice what impact that has, how there is no power differential anymore. In fact, you are so much more powerful than that other person ever was. And I want you to actually visualize them and feel them leaving and getting the support they need. See them in a counselor's office. See them in a program of support. And watch them breaking down their own pain, feeling their own pain instead of acting it out on other people. See that happening. See them beginning to face the pain they've caused. See them getting the support they need to become a completely different person. And now I want you to see yourself. If you're a child, I want you to see yourself step by step, year by year, growing up with the kind of emotional strength and spiritual strength and leadership that you now feel in your body, in your mind, and in your spirit. And I want you to see yourself having a life, whether you start out at 2 years old forward or 15 or 20 years forward. I want you to see yourself and feel yourself having the life you would have had if the abuse had never happened. I want you to feel yourself becoming more and more empowered, more and more compassionate, more and more in leadership of your life and those around you. I want you to feel the liberation, the freedom that you feel to express all of yourself sexually, emotionally, intellectually. I want you to see yourself becoming the leader that you were meant to be, whether that is leadership in the home, raising children, leadership in politics or medicine or art or working in a retail store, showing leadership in the way that you serve your customers. It doesn't matter, or cleaning houses. It matters not how you show that leadership, but see yourself fulfilling your potential, liberated and freed and empowered. And now I want you to see yourself going out of that situation, out of this visualization of yourself growing and evolving into who you are now. And I want you to see yourself back in that very favorite place in nature. This new, updated, upgraded, self-loving, powerful, self-respecting woman. I want you to see yourself starting many yards away from that hill that you walked down in the beginning. And as you walk toward that hill, I want you to feel any old remnants physically dropping off your body. And I want you to feel this new redo, this new memory, this new reality, this new experience integrating into every cell of your being. And I want you to see yourself becoming lighter and lighter and stronger and more expanded as you walk across that field toward that hill. It could be walking across a beach, whatever your favorite place is. I want you to see yourself walking across that space toward the hill, feeling more and more centered, more and more grounded in this new reality. And now you have come to the bottom of the hill, and I'm going to count from 1 to 5 to bring you back up that hill and back into the present moment gradually. Number 1, you're at the bottom of that hill, and I want you to continue letting yourself integrate and feel that shifting energy grounding itself in your body as you walk up the hill one step at a time. And now you're at number 2, feeling more and more present in this moment. And now you're stepping up and up and up. It's number 3, you're halfway up the hill. And I want you to just begin wiggling your fingers and toes as you come back more and more into this present moment. And now you're up, stepping up more and more to number 4. And I want you to wiggle your shoulders and move your head around. And now we're at number 5, top of the hill, back in the present moment. Open your eyes and feel yourself here in this present moment, back with me, with a new self. And I want you to realize that from this day forward, that can be real, because your body knows no time and space, and neither does your soul and your emotions. It's only the mind that tells you that there is a linear time and space. So let this be real. Let it be part of your reality. And whether you can release and replace the old memory with this new memory, or whether it's an integrated part of your reality today, that's up to you. But let it be real. This was a real experience, and you did it. And you are empowered. You are liberated. You are able to move forward with your life with a freedom that you had not known. And I know that this one exercise is not the answer to everything, but it can help you on your journey. And I hope you have made use of it. I hope it helps you. And I am here for you anytime. So let me know if I can help you further. You can always contact me at helenhillix.com. So for today, I want to send you lots of love from my heart to yours. I want to send you blessings and all the best wishes on your journey.